Small disclaimer on this episode, there is some sensitive material in here in regards to a serial killer and to murder. So if those areas are tough for you, you might want to skip this one. And as you can imagine, this was one of my more intense clearings that I've done along the way. You always know something's up when you have a tough time scheduling a spiritual clearing. You know that there is some sort of mechanics at play. You don't always know why, but you just go with it. It doesn't happen very often, but the one time I recall that it happened for a very good reason. So my client calls and says that she's having a lot of spiritual activity. The family's struggling. Now she had small kids, so I tried getting out there as soon as we could, but we had to go back and forth 3 or 4 times until we finally landed on a time that worked for both of us. Now, it was after another clearing that I had done earlier in the day, and that clearing happened to go very smooth, very easy. If you do clearing work, you know sometimes it's really easy and sometimes it's quite the struggle. Well, the first one was very easy. So I thought to myself, all right, I'll go to the second one. And I was kind of in that mind process of, oh, this will be easy. And I'll go to the second one and I'll make sure everything's okay, make sure the family's okay, and then I'll go home. And I approached it without doing my typical GCP, without the typical ground, clear, protect, without looking. You might have heard me mention in some of the earlier episodes, I didn't even do the grid around the house to look to see what was really in there. I showed up and I was kind of in this scheduling, get it done kind of mode. That was my mistake. I walked into the front door and the first thing I felt was what I can only imagine was the feeling of a knife stabbing me. And I say I can only imagine because I've never been stabbed by a knife, which is a wonderful thing. But it was a psychic sensation that happened. And it was really like a kind of a psychic attack. I mean, whatever this, whatever the spirit was that I was going to be dealing with in this home, I walked in a little bit unguarded, really relaxed. I let the previous spiritual clearing kind of, I don't know, lull me into just sort of a carefree state. And I walked in, I felt what I can only describe, felt like a knife stabbing me, and not stabbing me in a polite place. That's how we will say it. And I instantly stopped and said to the homeowner, I'm going to step back outside for a second. Just trying to, keep my composure. You don't walk into someone's house and say, I just feel like I got stabbed by a knife. That's going to scare the family. That's not why you're there. You never go there to scare the family. You always go to help. And I stepped back out and I said, okay, Bo, come on, you need to check yourself. Lesson learned. Every single spiritual clearing you do, you approach it, taking care of your energetic body, taking care of your balance, and, analyzing the situation as much as you can before you go in. You just got to, sort of step through those steps. So I step out and I did GCP and put up a grid around the house and tried to see what I was dealing with. And I could only see one stuck spirit, but it was so intense and strong, which, made sense to me after having that physical sensation happen, that I knew I needed to be really firm. Now, one state of mind that works really well when it comes to doing spiritual clearings is that firm, unconditional love. You don't get to mess with me. We're not playing around here, but we do need to get this done because you are a soul. You need to go home. And it's really important. So sometimes in these tougher situations, I found myself getting into that kind of that like motherly mode, where it's like, all right, I'm not messing around. We need to deal with this. I love you, but we need to deal with this. So I went back in the house and tried to locate this spirit. I could feel it was a very intense male energy, very powerful energy. Tried to locate him. And I remember he's just slippery. He didn't want anything to do with me. He didn't want me there. He didn't want me clearing him. And eventually I walked into, I think it was their living room, and he showed up and it almost felt confrontational. Like he showed up and I could see him about 50% solid. And he started to tell me, I don't even want to tell you that he told me his story, because that would have been nicer. He started to show me what he had done. And it was disturbing to kind of see that. I will say that right now, and this doesn't happen for everyone that does spiritual clearings, but on an occasion, you will run into someone that is not a very, good person in life. And now they're in the in-between. The only thing they don't have is their body, their physical body, so they can pretty much continue on with their mental state of mind. So he started showing me that he had killed people. He was sitting in a chair, and there was a young man, 19, 20, something like that, looked very young to me, that was there. And you could tell he was super lethargic. And this spirit showed me this imagery of him taking a knife, slitting the young man's throat, and then watching him bleed out. This all happened very quickly. Now, I wasn't happy about it at all. Did not want to see that, did not need to see that. You don't have to see the stories behind what's happening here and, in order to help somebody cross over. It's not about seeing all of the bad stuff that they've done or what they're worried about or the things that they're concerned over. It's not about that. It's about getting them to start moving in their transition again to the other side. So again, GCP, I put up an instant wall and said, no more stories. Like in my head, I was like, no more stories. But he was very, very strong. Now, I will tell you, as we're a little ways through this episode, if you're feeling frightened because this is, what you don't want to see spiritually, let me tell you, this is extremely rare. And I truly do not believe that they would have sent someone in that couldn't handle it and just wasn't ready for it. I could handle it. I was ready for it. This isn't the first perpetrator that I crossed over. Wasn't my first day, at the rodeo. So they knew that I could handle it. And for me, while it was disturbing to see that, it wasn't terrifying. It was more, okay, are you done? Are you done now? You done? Can we get back to what we're here to do, which is to help you go home? So that's my disclaimer. Not everyone sees intense situations, but if you do, please know it's because they know that you can handle it. Your guides would never let you go through something like that you couldn't handle or wasn't part of your spiritual path. So I put this energetic wall up, meaning stories are over. I don't need to hear your stories. We're going to talk about something else. And my goal was to start expanding his thought process to get him off of the reason why he was stuck, because this was clearly why he was stuck. My left brain, the logical brain, not my intuition, thought, oh, well, maybe he feels bad about what he did. Maybe he's scared of going to hell, et cetera, et cetera. And this is why he's stuck. Right after I did that, now, mind you, I used my left brain. So I thought through it, not my right brain, which is intuitive information. That's the actual information. Because I did that, because I had that human moment, he stepped forward toward the barrier. I mean, I'm still had the barrier up, but he stepped forward toward me and he told me something new. He said, I hurt the man of the house. I did that. It was me. I sent him to the hospital. And I turned to the homeowner, there was a husband and wife, and I turned to the husband, a living husband, and said, this spirit is bragging that he hurt you and that he was the one that did it. And the husband said, yes, a little while ago, I woke up paralyzed from the waist down, and it was terrifying. I got to the hospital, to the emergency room, and then over time, over that course that day, the numbness went away and I could walk again, and nobody knew why. And I thought, number one, I'm glad I'm here. Number two, this spirit's got to go home. Okay. No more hurting people. You now have to go home. And number three, I see what's going on here. This gentleman in spirit form is not scared of what's going to happen to him. He's enjoying it. He's enjoying every moment of it. He enjoyed who he killed when he was alive, and he's now enjoying hurting this family and causing them strife, because that's his MO. So I put this wall up and said, no more stories. One more story came through to let me know this isn't someone that's scared to cross over. This is somebody that has no intentions of crossing over, and they want to continue their psychological patterns affecting people in the earthly planes. So it's a little bit of a different story. I'm kind of glad that one came through the barrier, because it let me know I'm not, let me know what I was dealing with. It let me know the attitude and how I had to move forward with this. So I didn't know what to do next. I do what I always do. And I said to my guides, I'm not quite sure what to do. And they said, look for a water source. And I asked the family if there was a river or creek, near the house. They said, yeah, you just go right outside, and over there, there's a little tiny creek. Now, mind you, it was still really cold. We were in New Hampshire, and it was really, I'd say probably maybe 45, 50 degrees out. So it was very cold weather. And I went outside and I saw the creek, and I walked over toward it, and my guide said, take off your shoes and step in the creek. And I'm thinking, this is going to be freezing water. But he said, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. And I said, all right. Because now, mind you, earlier I got the gruesome story. Then I got the story about what he did to the gentleman that lived in the home, the living male. And then I tried some of my normal patterns. Wrap him in white light, the spirit, wrap him in white light, ask for, the collectors on the other side to come down and assist me, raise the vibration around him so he can start to shift from this horribly negative space. None of that worked. So this is why when I said to my guide, all right, now what do I do? He says, go outside, stand by the river. I did. Now take your shoes off, get in the river. I did. The water was like ice cubes, but it didn't matter. Once I did that, the male spirit came, just rolling out of the house. I didn't see him run, didn't see him do anything like that, but it was just this like whoosh of energy. And he was instantly standing in this little tiny creek in front of me, face to face. It was like a challenge. And I said, you know what? I'm done. We're done. It's time for you to go home. This chapter's closed. It's all set. And I remember wrapping a white light around him, almost like a bubble. And when I did that, I watched Mother Earth's water energy come up around it. It was absolutely beautiful to see. And when that happened, I could see him shift from angry aggression to just exhaustion. And that's when I looked at him and said, you can go, it's okay, you can go. And I remember he bowed his head and he just closed his eyes, and then he dissipated, and I knew he had crossed over. But it was that extra energy from Mother Earth. Standing in a frigid, cold stream was not what I signed up for that day, but that's what I had to do. And it was different than anything I had done before. This is why I always say to my guides, I'm stuck here. Can you help me out? What do I do next? How do I handle this? What do I do next? And still to this day, every clearing I do, I ask, what do I do next? Now, we got done with this and was very tired and very exhausted. Family, big hugs, wonderful people. And I wrapped the entire house in white light, swept out all of the negative energy, just sort of imagined all of the dark energy being swept out, absorbed back into Mother Earth, which worked pretty perfectly considering she was the one that helped me with the intensity of this spirit. And then I was driving home and I kept thinking to myself, he was so strong enough to affect me psychically, strong enough to, evade my intentions and the purpose why I'm there. And I couldn't hold on to him. White light wasn't doing anything. He was just so strong. I was like, wow, I was really tired. Chalked it up to having 2 clearings in one day, one that was super easy, one that was super hard. All I knew was I felt really good that male was no longer in their home and no longer causing the chaos that he was causing. And I felt very good that he had gone home, because as hard as this is for us to think about, we think, well, this person killed someone, they're horrible, they're evil, they're still a soul. They're still a soul, just like you, just like me, just like everyone else. So no matter how horrific it gets, I'm always glad when they can go home. The homeowner called me I don't remember if it was the next day or a couple days after. And she had recorded the clearing. She asked if she could record it. I said, yeah. And I think she re-listened to it, but she remembered what came through, him sitting on a chair. And I believe he also said that, I think I saw some medical stuff or something like that. I'm not sure. My memory's a little vague on that one. Obviously, you can see the impact points that my memory held on to. And she said she did a little bit of research. Now, this client's home was in Gilmington, New Hampshire. She said she did a little research and she stumbled on a serial killer called H.H. Holmes in Gilmington. The reason why she was blown away and wanted to call me, and the reason why she's like, you just crossed over H.H. Holmes. And I was like, well, we can Google things and put things together. And she said, no, I know it was him, because exactly what you said is exactly what he did. And all of our scheduling issues, by the time you got out here, you actually crossed him over on the anniversary date of his death. And goosebumps just ran through me. And I thought, yeah, that would make sense. That level of aggression, that level of intensity, that level of wanting to manipulate and wanting to harm, it all made sense to me. And the fact that our scheduling was so off kilter, we had to go back and forth and reschedule until the day that we finally all could meet for this. That day landing on the anniversary of his death made sense to me. It made sense to me that his guides, his loved ones, my guides, Mother Earth, all of these sources that assist in doing a clearing like this would do that on the anniversary date of his death. So, it's like missing a window. If you think about astrology, there's so many components that can come in here. We could analyze this one all day long, but the fact that that information came to light made me realize, yep, that's what it was. And of course I asked my guide, I said, Peter, really? He said, yeah, it was. So it took me a little bit to sit with that. Of course, I jumped in and Googled him because I had never heard of him before. So I jumped in and Googled him and I was like, wow, that's a bad dude. But I was grateful that I was able to help this quote unquote bad dude, serial killer. You get that name. Absolutely. I was really grateful I was able to help him go home. Imagine what it would be like coming down here, having that role to play, and then crossing back over and having to transition and review every moment of your life. That has to be a brutal review. Now, I'm not feeling bad for the guy necessarily, but I kind of am a little bit, because when you go back, and I go over this in more detail in my crossing over course, but when you go back to the other side, when you go home, you review every moment that you've had, and then you review everyone else's experience of that moment that you had. So he had to relive killing somebody, but he had to relive in that person's mom's point of view, her effect of it, like how she was affected by it. So the review is pretty brutal if you think about it, especially for somebody that did so much harm. So to help someone cross over, to help them, to boost them with a little bit more white light, a little bit more unconditional love, to help them in their transition, no matter how much of a bad person they were, it kind of warms my heart, because you're helping a soul shed that role. That was a very awful role to have had played. Because in the end, as you know, ghosts are people too.
This podcast is brought to you by the SAGE Method, the most comprehensive and down-to-earth intuitive development training available. Is this your year? Is it finally your time to increase your intuition, bring in more abundance, and experience the bliss you deserve? If yes, then join thousands of students across the world for a 7-week journey to uncover your natural, beautiful, and strong intuition. Visit us at thesagemethod.com for more information.